This morning I want to talk about people, my life, arguments. I hear people arguing about all sorts of things. I hear people arguing about governments and getting upset and cranky and all the rest. Um, you know, I hear all sorts of different reasons about different things. And I always say, in life, an argument is no match for experience. I've been around 50 years. I know I only look 21. I only look young. But I've been here 50 years now, and everything I've been through in life, and hear this correctly, I don't regret what I've been through, where I've been, because I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be the man I am today. And my favourite quote is, "Your argument is no match for an experience." You know, if I haven't experienced something, I don't try and argue from an academic standpoint or anything else. I hear all sorts of reasoning and arguments with no concept. Um, for my life, I'm going to talk a bit about my life today. Back when I was young, my parents, love my parents, hear what I'm saying. They're both passed on now, but they were coming out of their own paradigm of hurt and pain. As a kid, they used to say to me, "You stupid little so-and-so, you had a brain, you'd be dangerous." I hear that continually. And the first 5 years of a child's life is what you're formed into, what you believe. They're your foundations, because you don't have nothing else to believe. So I grew up with that belief that I was stupid, I was an idiot. We as kids used to get beatings every day, because they were fighting, not because we'd done something wrong. So my paradigm was pretty screwed from the start. So I guess by the time I was about 14 years old, I decided I'm going to rebel, or even 13. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to start hanging around the streets, hanging around with the boys, because I'm an idiot anyway. And I did. 13, 14 years old, I started hanging around the shops in the local area in a place called Deer Park in Melbourne. And used to be about 40 or 50 of us get up there, up to all sorts of trouble and things we could do. So by 14 years old, I was in trouble with the police, vandalism, theft, string of things, already drinking, trying to be the hero. I regret missing out on childhood because of that, because of my rebellion of doing those things. Because I did, I missed out on childhood. I never really got to grow up as someone should. I was out there wanting to be the clown. By 15, I dropped out of school. 15, 16, full on drink. And 15, I used to black out, get blind drunk, not even remember what I'd done half the time. Used to be a running joke years later with some of my friends. They get drunk and put the Superman cape on because you didn't know what was possible, what was going to happen. But my life spiraled down from that. I got onto marijuana, started smoking heaps of drugs, and wiping out, and copious amounts. As the years progressed, I'd be first thing in the morning, I'd be off my face. If I had a job, I'd be there drinking, getting drunk, and smoking drugs at lunchtime. All that sort of stuff that you think and you kid yourself it's fun. And really what I was doing in those years, I was wiping out pain. I remember going through school and that, the dramas that used to go on, and all the trouble, all the fights and stuff. And I wasn't a fighter. Never confessed to be that, but there was always dramas happening. Always trouble. So I grew up in a crowd that, I guess, loved drinking, loved drugs, loved dramas, loved crowd, loved all that sort of trouble that went on with it. And by the time I was 17, 18, I started getting involved in the other stuff, in the speed and all the rest. And I remember used to go down this local hotel. We always used to say if anybody ever got on the needle, then they're going to cop a hiding. But one by one, people started doing that over the years. And I started, because I knew so many people with drugs and that, I started trafficking and selling drugs. And my life, I had to give up work to make more money from drugs. I mean, I'm not proud of these things. Hear what I'm saying. But my whole life was a spiral. Drugs, alcohol, you name it, whatever was going, I was doing it. I thought it was life's a party. And the party caught up with me. I used to have police come running through the doors, smashing the doors in and getting busted. Some of my friends that I knew went to jail for, there was all sorts of things, murders and all, you name it. There's a lot of things that happened in life. some of the people that I knew, are still caught up in that, and I still see them go through pain and arguments, hate, torment. I remember, by the time of the end of this life, there was no one home. I was 29 years old, nearly lost my mind. You could have pushed me like a rag doll. I've done so many pills, so many drugs, shooting up heroin, shooting up speed, thinking it was all a big joke, but I was a mess. My mind was shot. I couldn't focus, couldn't concentrate anymore. Everything was going. My body was shutting down. I used to have a running joke saying I'll be dead by the time I'm 30, life's a party, And thank God that by 29 I got out of that scene. But I'll tell you what happened. You see, I remember I was going to a doctor in Sunshine in Melbourne trying to get these drugs called Rohypnols, and I needed something to try and calm me down because my mind was shot. I was losing it. I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. So I'm getting these Rohys, and my mate goes in before me and says, this doctor's a Christian, be careful, he's going to try and brainwash you and tell you about God. And I went in there, and he did. He was trying to tell me about God. Didn't really mean nothing to me, but he told me about this church, over in a place called Werribee, and I thought, I'm going to check this out. They might be nice people to hang around with, because I never hang around with straight people. All my life, all I knew was people that was doing what I was doing, the drinking, the drugs, the party lifestyle. And I knew I needed help, so I figured, I'll go and check them out. But, at the time, I'd hit rock bottom. You see, I had nowhere to live. I was living in a tin shed, nothing but the clothes on my back. I'd really come to the end of myself. It's like everywhere I tried to go, everyone knew me, couldn't get a house, because if I had moved in the house, I would have started drug dealing again, because that's the life I lived. But no one would give me a place to stay. And I thank God for that, because I come to that place of, okay, so these people, come to a place where they picked me up on a Sunday morning and took me to a church, I'm freaking out, because, I didn't believe in God or any of that, and the last place I wanted to be was a church, but I wanted to get some nice people around me, so I thought. It's quite funny because, the guy that picks me up and him and his wife, this guy's got tattoos all over his arms, and I thought, what's going on? These Christians, they're people that sit around sipping tea and swapping cake recipes. What do they know? They've had a good life. They don't know this crowd. How come this guy's got tattoos? What's he doing here? Anyway, they took me to this church in Werribee, and I thought, where are we? We're in this place that looks like a warehouse. This is not church. I'm thinking of a place where stained glass windows, people fall asleep, bored with a message, all that sort of stuff. That was my idea of church. Anyway, I still remember the minister preaching that day, and the words didn't mean a lot to me at the time, because it was what it was there. Nobody judged me, it must have stunk, because, I couldn't change or anything. No one judged me, and people just loved on me in that place, and it blew me away. But at the end of that, I had a minister, a pastor, a friend of mine today, said, do you want to accept Jesus Christ in your life? I had no idea what he was talking about. No concept. Do you want to pray? And I thought, yeah, I'll pray. Why not? I didn't believe in God. Had no concept of who God was. But I prayed, and he said, Lord Jesus, repeat after me, Lord Jesus, come in my life, which I did. So I repeated after him, and I said that, Lord Jesus, come in my life. Forgive me my sin. I didn't understand what I'd done that day. I could still tell you the day. It was the 7th of February 1993. But the day I did that, it was like a whole heap of darkness and heaviness and torment and all that stuff that was on me lifted off. And I was like, what just happened? Who turned on the lights? And that the desire for drugs and alcohol, which was rampant in my life, there's no way I could have given up. It was impossible. Anybody who knew me will say that. Had a nickname in those days, Punky, and they all used to say, Punky, we know, not all of them, sorry, some of them have said this, have said, Punky, we know your God must be real, because there's no way you could have changed. I used to get wiped out all the time, everything was a big joke. There's probably nothing I hadn't done in that life. But that day, the desire, everything just lifted. The darkness, the weight, the heaviness just moved off me. It's like, wow, check this out, this stuff. What has happened here? And these guys just loved on me, spent the whole day with them, didn't want to go back to this place. So I'm living in this tin shed, where all my mates are doing drugs in the house, but, because I had nowhere to live, so I'm out the back here. It was a time of desperation. And I'd come back that night, you know, and they're all in there on the doing the chuff, smoking and drinking and that, and said, you know, you want some? I said, no, I'm not having any. And they're looking at me strange, like, what's happened to you? You've been brainwashed or something, Punky. I said, no, I've got no desire. I don't want to do it. And anyway, you know, a few days later, I'm still living at this place because I've got nowhere else to live. No desire to touch any of this stuff. And then they had what is called a healing night. It was on a Thursday night at this same church. And somebody picked me up and took me there, and I went there that night, and I saw this guy at the front. You know, he's getting prayed for at the front of in the church I'm talking about, where they go up the front and they get prayer. Yeah, so this guy's getting prayer, and God's touching this guy's life. Something happened. I'm watching this guy just in laughter, just joy, you know. And I thought, what is this? But that presence that was on that guy actually hit me, and I started to cry. Not cry sadness and tears of despair. It was a tears of joy. It was a happiness that I've never experienced. And this joy was like, wow, God, you're real. This stuff isn't just something that, you know, people are talking about and have made up. You're not in someone's head. This stuff is real. And it blew me away, because the presence of God, this love, this presence that I experienced was far better than anything I've ever experienced. So anyway, after that, you know, I finally got out of this tin shed and got a house or a flat in Werribee. This is another miracle how this happened, because I didn't really have any money, my name was shot, because every place I'd lived in I'd sold drugs in, so I had a bad name. But the door opened to get this flat in Werribee, and I'd moved up there, and you know, I had this encounter for 12 months. You want to talk about spiritual encounters? This was incredible. I'd be at home, and the presence of God would just come in my room that thick that I'll be laughing, I'll be in tears. But what was happening in my heart was getting healed. And you know, this presence that I'm talking about is far better than any drug I've ever had, far better than any heroin, far better than any speed, far better than any drinking. It was unreal. You can't describe the buzz. It's far better than any drug. The presence of God is just awesome. And you know, God was healing my heart, because remember, I told you my mind was shot. Like, I couldn't even hardly write my own name, couldn't think straight. So he started to heal my mind, he started to heal my heart, he started to set me free of all sorts of stuff. And you know, some of the weirdest things, I had the biggest, foulest mouth. I couldn't swear. Everything I used to do in the old life died. I'm trying to, there was nothing in me, you know. I'd hurt myself, you know, the first thing you'd say is, whatever. There was nothing in there. You know, my whole life was changing. You know, and people think, oh, you know, Christianity, you know, what a boring life. It's been 20, nearly 21 years now. What a party I've had. What an awesome time. What an awesome time to know a God that loves me, that wants to set people free, give them a hope and a future. How many people I see go through life and, you know, just doing life and haven't got a clue where they're going or what they're doing. You know, don't know anything about where they're meant to be going. I've watched people, you know, I remember me, for example, for years, you know, when I did work, until the end of it, I was incapable of working, but I still work in factories and all the rest, you know, just go through life, no idea what I'm doing, no interest in the job. I had to do it to survive, unless I was selling drugs. Well, the drugs come later, you know, but I survived on that, you know. And then I become to a place where, well, this is all I'm good for, you know, selling drugs. That's all I could do. So I lived that life, and you know, I wasn't capable of working anymore because I believed the lie. It's like somebody that goes to prison; they keep going back, you know. And I was in court every year. Got charged for drug trafficking numerous times. Got charged for all sorts of stuff. 3 pages of that kind of stuff. But you know, today, what God has done and transformed that life to a place where I've done things like jury duty. I mean, I couldn't believe they called me up for that after the life I'd lived, and you know, all the stuff that happened. You know, federal police checks to work at the airport, stuff like that. You know, all that. God has restored things. You know, been all over a lot of parts of the world. He's restored so much in my life, and I remember, you know, marrying the most beautiful girl I could ever ask for, my best friend. You know, now I'm with her, and the last thing I would have ever thought of was joining the Salvation Army, become a Salvation Army officer, where God has called me into that ministry, and I love what He's doing in the army. I love what's happening in the army. You know, the army is probably one of the most respectable places I've seen. And I understand that because it's about people. It's about God, but it's about people. It's about loving people, loving broken people. You know, we've all got stories. We've all been through stuff out there. And as I said at the start, and don't misunderstand me, I don't regret where I've been in life, you know. Because if I hadn't been through those things, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't understand the love of a merciful God who's given me so much in life, who's blessed me, blessed my socks off. He's more real than the street I live in. He's more real than anything I know. He wants to bless you. He wants to give you a hope, a future and a life. Not just go through life saying, "K, Sarah, Sarah, the future's not ours to see, whatever will be, will be." He wants to give you life, hope, future. He wants to take depression away from you. He wants to take, you know, things that you're caught up in bondage to. You know, people believe the lie, "Oh, I can never get free." You know, you hear AA and Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, there's some well and good things in there, but they say things like, "Every day is a battle with a bottle. I'm a confessed alcoholic, you know, I'll never get free." Where Jesus said, when the Son sets you free, you're free indeed. He's the one who gives freedom because he heals your heart. He heals the hurts and the hang-ups and the stuff that you've got inside. He's the one who gives you life. He's the one who wants to break the old mindsets. You know, we believe the lie that keeps us in that prison of we can't get free. You know, it says in the Bible, a man is a slave to whatever's mastered him. I was mastered by all sorts of stuff. I was a prisoner to all the pain and the hurt. He wants to set people free. He set me free, and he can set you free too.